She crushed her enemies without mercy, but he made her weak in the knees. Dawn of defiance. The warship Vindication cut through the darkness of space like a blade, its angular silhouette casting long shadows across the stars. On the command bridge, Admiral Nira Vex stood perfectly still, her violet skin luminescent under the tactical displays. Her reputation preceded her across 3 star systems: ruthless, brilliant, unstoppable. The hegemony forces had learned to fear the sight of her fleet on their scanners. Enemy vessels approaching from Vector 9. Admiral, her first officer reported, voice tight with anticipation. Nira's eyes narrowed, their amethyst irises calculating distance, time, and casualties in an instant. Deploy Squadrons 3 and 4. Flank maneuver. No survivors. Her crew moved with practiced precision, knowing hesitation meant death. Nira had built this loyalty through years of victories, through impossible odds overcome by her tactical genius. The Meriadian Alliance valued her as their most effective weapon against the hegemony's expansion. The battle unfolded exactly as she had predicted. Enemy ships burst into brilliant flames against the backdrop of stars, their destruction reflected in her unflinching gaze. Victory, as always, belonged to her. Admiral, Communications Officer Tarek interrupted her moment of satisfaction. Alliance Command is sending reinforcements. A specialized strike team? Nira's jaw tightened. Unnecessary. The situation is contained. Orders come directly from High Command. The team is already en route. Led by Major Eli Ryder, a human name. Nira's lip curled slightly. Humans were unpredictable, emotional, chaotic. Everything she despised in battle strategy. Everything she had purged from her own approach to warfare. Very well. Prepare for their arrival. Hours later, she watched the sleek combat shuttle dock with practiced precision. The airlock cycled, and her first impression of Major Eli Ryder did nothing to improve her opinion. Tall for a human, with dark hair that defied military regulation and eyes the color of storm clouds. His stance was casual, almost insolent as he approached. Admiral Vex. His voice carried an unexpected depth. An honor to meet the scourge of Cerithian Prime. That title is propaganda, she replied coldly. I prefer results to reputation, Major. A smile touched his lips. Results speak for themselves. 5 major victories in 3 months. Impressive by any standard. Your team's purpose here remains unclear. My forces have the situation well in hand. Eli stepped closer, seemingly unbothered by her frigid demeanor. The hegemonies deployed a new weapons platform. We've been tracking it for weeks. Intelligence suggests it's heading for this sector. I've received no such intelligence, that's why we're here. His smile faded, replaced by something harder, more familiar to her. This isn't just another battle, Admiral. What's coming could change the course of this war. For a moment, their gazes locked, neither willing to yield. Nira felt something unfamiliar stir within her. Not anger, not resentment, but something more dangerous. Curiosity. You'll follow my command structure, she finally said. Your team operates under my authority. Understood, he replied. But the gleam in his eyes suggested otherwise. As he turned to leave, Nira found herself watching his departure with uncharacteristic attention. Something about this human disrupted her carefully maintained equilibrium. It was irritating. Officer Tarek, assign quarters for the Major and his team, and keep them under observation. Yes, Admiral. That night, alone in her quarters, Nira reviewed battle plans with methodical precision, yet her thoughts kept drifting to storm-gray eyes and that insufferable confidence. She would need to be vigilant. Humans were unpredictable, and unpredictability was dangerous. What she didn't yet realize was that the greatest danger Eli Ryder posed wasn't to her mission, it was to her heart. Battle's edge. The tactical room hummed with tension as Nira studied the holographic display. A week had passed since the humans' arrival, and the predicted hegemony weapons platform had yet to materialize. Your intelligence appears flawed, Major, she said as Eli entered. He moved beside her, close enough that she could detect the faint scent of something earthy and distinctly human. Patience isn't a Meriadian trait, I see. Efficiency is. Every moment spent waiting is a tactical advantage lost. Eli's fingers moved through the holographic display, adjusting the view to reveal a distant asteroid field. They're hiding here, using the mineral deposits to mask their energy signature. Nira frowned. That's beyond our sensor range, but not beyond intuition. His eyes met hers. Sometimes you need to think like your enemy, not just outmaneuver them. Before she could respond, the alarm blared.
Admiral!
Officer Tarek called over the comm. Multiple hegemony vessels emerging from the asteroid belt. Naira's eyes widened fractionally, the only indication of her surprise. Eli didn't gloat, merely nodded. Your bridge or mine? Mine, she snapped, already moving. The battle erupted with characteristic violence. Naira commanded from the Vindication, while Eli led a squadron of strike fighters directly toward the emerging threat. His piloting skills surpassed anything she had expected, his small craft dancing between enemy fire with impossible precision. The weapons platform is shielded. Eli's voice came through the comm. We need to hit it from multiple vectors simultaneously. That would leave our flank exposed, Naira countered. Trust me on this, Admiral. Trust, a concept foreign to her tactical vocabulary. Yet as hegemony reinforcements appeared, she made her decision. All ships execute Major Ryder's approach, covering fire on my mark. What followed was a harmony of destruction she had never before witnessed. Her capital ships provided devastating covering fire, while Eli's team slipped through the chaos, striking with surgical precision. When the weapons platform finally ruptured in a blinding explosion, Naira found herself holding her breath. All fighters report, she commanded. One by one, they checked in. Finally, Eli's voice crackled through. Target neutralized, Admiral. Heading home. Relief flooded her system, an emotion so unfamiliar she nearly recoiled from it. Why should one human's survival matter amid the greater victory? Later, as the med team treated the wounded, Naira found Eli alone in the observation deck, a laceration across his shoulder being sealed by a portable med unit. Your tactics were unconventional, she said, stopping several paces away, but effective. He winced slightly as the med unit finished its work. Yes. She hesitated. You were right about the asteroid field. Don't strain yourself with the compliment, Admiral. The corner of his mouth lifted. Naira, she corrected, surprising herself. When we're not on the bridge. His smile reached his eyes then, transforming his face in a way that caused her pulse to accelerate inexplicably. Naira, he repeated, testing the sound of her name. She turned to leave, uncomfortable with the unfamiliar sensations rippling beneath her composed exterior. You know, he called after her, on Earth, saving each other's lives is usually cause for celebration. Perhaps a drink someday? She paused without turning. We are not on Earth, Major. His laughter followed her down the corridor, warm and genuine. Not yet, Naira. Not yet. In the days that followed, their forces tracked the remaining hegemony vessels through 3 star systems. Each engagement brought them closer, their combat styles merging into something neither had anticipated. Her precision complemented by his intuition, her strength by his adaptability. Watching him on the bridge, conferring with her officers as if he belonged there, Naira realized the danger had evolved. Major Eli Ryder was becoming essential to her, not just as a tactical asset but as something more complicated, something she had never allowed herself to need. And in war, needs were weaknesses enemies could exploit. Veiled vulnerabilities, the celebration following their 3rd consecutive victory, was subdued by Mariadian standards, but raucous by Naira's. She observed from the periphery as her crew intermingled with Eli's team, sharing stories and tactical analyses that gradually transformed into laughter and camaraderie. Not joining the festivities, Eli appeared beside her, offering a glass of iridescent blue liquid. I prefer to maintain a certain distance, she replied, but accepted the drink. All respect. Admiral, but distance doesn't win wars. Connection does. He gestured toward their crews. Every person in this room would die for you. As duty requires. No. His eyes held hers. Not just duty. They believe in you. There's a difference. The observation unsettled her. Naira had never considered loyalty beyond its tactical advantages. And what do you believe in, Major? Moments worth fighting for. He leaned against the wall beside her. Like right now, enemies temporarily held at bay, good people alive because of what we did, stars shining outside regardless of our conflicts. His perspective was so alien to her that she found herself genuinely curious. You find meaning in the temporary? I find meaning in the real. His hand moved to the viewport, tracing the outline of a distant nebula. The hegemony fights for dominance. The Alliance fights for freedom. But people, we fight for moments that make existence worthwhile. A luxury of your species, she observed. Meridians are born to purpose. And what's yours? The question caught her off guard. Victory. The preservation of our world, and after that, after. She had never considered an after. Victory had always been an infinite pursuit, not a destination. The celebration continued into the ship's night cycle. Eventually, Naira retreated to the solitude of the observation deck. The vast expanse of stars had always centered her, reminded her of the insignificance of individual concerns. She didn't turn when she heard his footsteps. Somehow she had known he would find her. Your species values touch, she said as he stood beside her. I've observed your team. The constant physical reinforcement of bonds. We do, he acknowledged. Does yours not? Only in specific contexts, she hesitated. Combat training, medical necessity, reproductive requirements. That sounds lonely. The word resonated through her with unexpected force. Lonely. Such a concept had never occurred to her before his arrival. May I? He asked, his hand hovering near hers. Curious despite herself, she nodded once. His fingers intertwined with hers, warm, solid, alive. The simple connection sent a current through her body that no tactical victory had ever matched. His thumb traced small circles on the back of her hand, each movement awakening nerve endings she hadn't known existed. Your heart rate has increased, she observed, her voice softer than intended. So has yours. His smile was gentle. They stood in silence, watching the stars drift by, connected by this small revolutionary touch. Naira found herself leaning slightly toward him, drawn by something beyond rational understanding. This is dangerous, she whispered, not moving away. The most worthwhile things usually are. When he leaned down, his lips brushing hers with gentle question, Naira made a decision that had nothing to do with tactics or duty or victory. She surrendered to the moment, to the warmth of him, to the impossible connection forming between species-born worlds apart. His arms encircled her waist as the kiss deepened, and she discovered that the legendary scourge of Cerithian Prime could tremble from something other than rage or determination. Her fingers traced the contours of his face, memorizing each detail as if mapping enemy territory. Except he wasn't the enemy. He had become something else entirely, a possibility she had never allowed herself to imagine. Later, as artificial dawn broke across the ship, they lay together in her quarters, the barriers between their worlds temporarily dissolved. His fingers traced patterns across her violet skin, while she studied the strange vulnerability in his sleeping face. For the first time in her life, Admiral Naira Vex contemplated a future beyond the next battle. It terrified her more than any enemy she had ever faced. See? Fractured stars. 3 hegemony dreadnoughts on approach vector, Officer Tarek reported, her voice cutting through the tension on the bridge. They're targeting our supply lines. Naira analyzed the tactical display, acutely aware of Eli standing at her side. Their relationship had evolved over the past 2 months into something neither had anticipated. Moments of startling intimacy, woven between the harsh realities of war. They're trying to draw us out, Eli observed, his shoulder nearly touching hers. Split our forces. Agreed. Naira's mind calculated probabilities with mechanical precision, which means their main fleet is elsewhere, preparing for something bigger. The tactical meeting that followed was contentious. Alliance Command had transmitted new orders. Naira's fleet was to engage the dreadnoughts, while Eli's strike team would be reassigned to infiltrate a suspected hegemony research facility in the Cygnus sector. This is a mistake, Naira argued, rare emotion coloring her voice. Dividing our forces plays directly into their strategy. The holographic figure of Admiral Zeth, head of Alliance Command, regarded her coldly. Your attachment to Major Ryder's team has been noted, Admiral Vex. Perhaps it clouds your judgment. The words struck with precision, exactly as intended. Naira felt Eli stiffen beside her but maintained her composure. My judgment concerns tactical efficiency, nothing more. Then you'll comply with your orders. Effective immediately. When the transmission ended, silence engulfed the room. Naira turned to the viewport, her back rigid with controlled fury. Naira, Eli began, his voice low. Don't. She cut him off. They're right. This is a tactical matter, nothing more. The lie hung between them, as vast as the space that would soon separate them. When she finally faced him, her expression had hardened back to the admiral he'd first met. Your team departs at 600. The Vindication moves to intercept the dreadnoughts at 800. So that's it? Anger flashed in his eyes. Months of fighting together and you just revert to the Ice Queen at the first challenge? What I feel is irrelevant. Her voice remained steady despite the storm inside her. We have our orders. Damn the orders. He moved closer, lowering his voice. You know as well as I do that something's wrong with this directive. The timing, the separation, they're isolating us for a reason. Speculation without evidence is pointless. His expression shifted from anger to something worse, disappointment. I thought I knew you, Naira. I thought what we shared meant something. Each word pierced her carefully constructed defenses. What we shared was a temporary alliance beneficial to both sides. Nothing more. The lie tasted bitter on her tongue, but she maintained her cold facade as his face hardened in response. Understood, Admiral. His formality cut deeper than any rage could have. My team will be ready at 600. He left without another word, the doors hissing shut behind him with finality. That night, alone in quarters that somehow felt emptier than before she'd known him, Naira reviewed the intelligence reports with growing unease. Something about the hegemony's movements didn't align with their usual patterns. She found herself wishing for Eli's intuitive approach, his ability to see beyond the data. By morning, her suspicions had crystallized into certainty. This was a trap, not just for her fleet, but specifically for Eli's team. The coordinates they'd been given would lead them directly into a hegemony ambush. She reached for the comm to warn him, only to discover all channels to his shuttle had been blocked by Alliance Command. Officer Tarek, she barked. Prepare my personal craft immediately, Admiral. Confusion colored her first officer's voice. The fleet moves against the dreadnoughts in 40 minutes. The fleet will proceed as ordered under your command. Naira was already moving toward the hangar bay. I have a different target. Racing through space in her sleek interceptor, Naira pushed the engines beyond safety protocols. Her mind replayed their last conversation, the hurt in his eyes, the coldness of her words. She had pushed him away to protect herself from the vulnerability he created in her, and in doing so, might have sent him to his death. She reached the coordinates just as Eli's shuttle emerged from hyperspace. Without warning, she fired a precision shot across their bow, forcing them to halt. What the hell? His voice crackled through the comm when she established connection. Naira? It's a trap, she said without preamble. Alliance Command has been compromised. These coordinates place you directly in a hegemony kill zone. Silence stretched between them. Finally, how can you be sure? Because I know you were right. About intuition, about connection. She paused, swallowing her pride. About us. Before he could respond, her sensors detected multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. Hegemony hunters, exactly as she'd feared. Evasive maneuvers, she commanded. Follow my lead. What followed was a desperate battle against overwhelming odds. Eli's team fought with characteristic brilliance, but the enemy had come prepared. When a blast sheared off part of Eli's shuttle wing, Naira made a decision that had nothing to do with tactics and everything to do with the heart she'd denied for so long. Get your team to the emergency coordinates, she ordered, positioning her interceptor between his damaged craft and the largest enemy vessel. Naira, don't, for once in your life, follow orders. Her voice softened. Please, Eli. As his shuttle limped toward safety, Naira turned to face the hegemony fleet alone, a single violet star against the darkness. Beyond the void, consciousness returned to Naira in painful increments. White ceiling, the antiseptic smell of a medical bay, the soft beep of monitoring equipment. She's awakening, an unfamiliar voice announced. Naira struggled to focus, memories returning in fragments. The battle. Her interceptor taking critical damage. Emergency ejection into the void. Then darkness. Where? Her voice emerged as a rasp. Safe, a familiar voice. Eli's voice rough with emotion. His face appeared above her. Haggard with exhaustion, but eyes bright with something she recognized as joy. You're on the Defiance. Alliance vessel. My ship. My crew. Safe too. His hand found hers, warm and solid. Your first officer got them out after the dreadnoughts revealed themselves as disguised troop carriers. The whole thing was an elaborate trap. She struggled to sit up, wincing at the pain lancing through her body. Alliance command? His expression darkened. Compromised at the highest levels. The evidence you transmitted before engaging the hegemony fleet exposed everything. There's a reckoning happening throughout the command structure. Memories of that desperate final act returned, using her interceptor's communication array to broadcast the evidence she'd compiled, even as enemy fire tore through her shields. "How did you find me?" she asked, realizing the statistical improbability of her survival. A smile touched his lips. Intuition. The truth was in his eyes. He had refused to leave without her, had traced her emergency beacon through the debris field, had risked everything to bring her home. That was tactically unsound, she chided, but her fingers tightened around his. Most worthwhile things are. He brought her hand to his lips. You risked everything for my team. Did you really think I wouldn't do the same for you? The weeks that followed brought seismic shifts throughout the Alliance. With the exposure of hegemony infiltration at the highest levels, a new command structure emerged, one that valued both Naira's tactical brilliance and Eli's unorthodox approach. They were assigned joint command of a new task force dedicated to rooting out remaining hegemony influence. Working side by side, they discovered a balance neither had thought possible. Her strength complemented by his adaptability, her precision by his intuition. And in the quiet moments between battles, they discovered something else, a future neither had dared imagine before. Your people have a bonding ritual, Eli said one night as they stood on the observation deck of their new flagship, the stars stretching infinitely before them. And mine have one too, different in form, identical in meaning. Naira turned to him, her violet skin luminescent in the starlight. Are you proposing a formal alliance, Major Ryder? His laugh warmed her more than any tactical victory ever had. I'm proposing we stop pretending that what exists between us can be defined by military terminology. And what would you call it instead? She asked, though she knew the answer in her accelerated heartbeat and the warmth that spread through her at his proximity. Love, he said simply. Across species, across worlds, across the void between stars. She had faced countless enemies without flinching, had made decisions that determined the fate of worlds. Yet this, surrendering to the truth of what she felt, required a different kind of courage. The scourge of Cerithian Prime defeated by a human emotion. Her smile belied her words. My ancestors would be horrified, and mine would be terrified of you. His arms encircled her waist. We've never been very good at following expectations, have we? The war continued as wars do. Battles won and lost, strategies developed and executed. But something fundamental had changed in the legendary Admiral Nera Vex. The cold tactician remained. The brilliant strategist still commanded respect and fear throughout the galaxy. But now there existed another truth alongside her fearsome reputation, the truth of violet skin against human hands in the darkness, of laughter shared in rare moments of peace, of strength found not just in victory but in vulnerability. Together they forged something neither of their worlds had anticipated, a love that transcended tactical advantage, that found power in surrender, that created strength through connection rather than isolation. And across the war-torn galaxy, whispers spread of the fearsome Violet Admiral who crushed her enemies without mercy, but who had found her match in a human who made her weak in the knees. In the end, it wasn't weakness at all. It was the greatest strength either of them had ever known.